Okay, let's start. Okay, so then welcome to our training seminar on senior engagement. After our first seminar last week on co-creation, this is our second seminar where we want to talk about how to involve seniors in the co-creation process. I will be moderator, and the seminar has been also prepared and developed and discussed together with our wonderful colleagues from Austria, Kerstin and Valentina, who are leader of the working group on senior engagement. They also joined the meeting today and will be moderating some sessions. So thanks again to both for organizing the meeting. Yes, we wanted to meet in Berlin, but now due to COVID-19, we are forced to organize this webinar. It's a different experience, but I was quite happy that last week our first meeting went fine, and I hope you also enjoyed it. And we adopted a little bit based on the lessons we've learned. And I hope also today will be a nice experience for all of us. This is our digital work. If the situation is like this in your home office, then the most important thing is don't get crazy and please mute your phone, that we don't have the side noises. But so far, I think everybody is well aware of the functioning of the video conference and its different roles. And I think we can manage everything. What we wanted, some people started to talk about the weather. We wanted to understand how you're feeling, what's the temperature, what's the weather like in your town, just to understand what is, how we are competing with it today. So please answer the question. We will have a short questionnaire round. And Doreen is collecting the results. Many people have answered the questions. I can get the results. Doreen, what is the situation?
Just a second. Okay. So here we go.
Okay, so we have 42% now 15 to 20 degree, 30% above 25 degree, 0% below 15 degree. So it looks good. And in 64% of all participants, it's very sunny, only 9% cloudy. And there must be one person where it's raining. Okay. I hope that until the end of the day, the situation will improve and we have a nice training seminar, and in the afternoon, everybody can enjoy the nice weather. Thank you for answering. Yes, what is the agenda for today? We will have our seminar with a short introduction. And as I mentioned before, we are very happy that we have guests, external guests, experts from the area of senior engagement from Belgium, from Flanders, Happy Aging and LiCalab. They are going to present during most of the 3 sessions we have here today, and we can discuss their experiences and how they implement their work. We'll start with a presentation of the best practice of Happy Aging and LiCalab. And then we will have basically 3 breakout sessions, which are focused first on how to co-create with elderly people. Then second, how to motivate and engage elderly people. And the last session will be dedicated on experiences during COVID-19, especially which online platform, which online tools have been used or can be used to overcome the special situation of lockdowns and all the problems related to the current situation. So, and at the end of the day, we finish at 1 o'clock with a summary and conclusions of the seminar. You see, we always have a 15 minutes presentation, keynotes of our speakers, and then we will join in breakout sessions, smaller groups for half an hour, 35 minutes, where we can discuss together. Our objective is to explore better the different co-creation methods with seniors. We want to understand how to involve elderly into this participatory and interactive way, what projects there are. We want to share knowledge and good practices on involving elderly in innovation projects. We are now here in our seminar. The participants are project partners and also the members of the task force group, which are representatives from business, senior representatives, academia, and administration. And all this training seminar is meant to prepare so the future work in our project and should help you to improve your future work in your realities. So again, we are a little bit different group of participants compared to last week. We want to make a short question again, where are you from? To understand the different composition of our participants today. So please, could you answer the questions here on the list? Okay. Doreen, are you?
I'm going to share the results. Just a second. So.
Okay. So we have 68% of the participants are project partners, and then we have 6% business, 6% seniors, 9% academia, 3% administration, 9% others. So we have the majority of the participants from the project partners. If we are joining the outbreak session, each of the moderator there will be a short round of introduction. So there will be a mixed group. Doreen composed the groups, trying to put together people with different backgrounds. So in the introduction, it's good maybe if you give a short explanation of who you are, which role you fulfill in your work life, and that it's a better preparation of the discussion. Okay. What was prepared for you was some training material with experiences and exercises. Also for the last seminar, we prepared these material. Most of you used it. I also hope that you had the chance to look at it. If you had no time or had some problems, you can still click on the link and look at the material. I think it's very helpful. Again, what is the procedure is like last week, we will have presentations, keynotes, which are PowerPoint presentations shared on a shared screen. We have the chat function that you can use if you have a question, and you can write it down in the chat box. We will collect it and answer it after the presentation. And then we also can have a question and answer session after the presentation to discuss directly. The outbreak sessions will work also like last time. We have smaller groups. Doreen will allocate each participant to the group. You don't have to do anything. This will all happen automatically. You will be shifted into a room, and suddenly then you will only be in a group of smaller people. There will be one moderator and who's hosting the meeting. It should be a very open discussion, so everybody can use his microphone. We are very happy if you can share your video, because then we can see your face. Is also important for communication. We will have, the moderator will have a Word document with the questions that we want to discuss, and we'll also write down important topics that are discussed. Like last meeting, we also have again a graphic recorder. I hope you like the results from the first meeting. We also want to have a similar nice record of our meeting today. And all the results will be prepared and distributed to you after the session. And again, like last time, don't worry about your English. There's no native speaker among us. We are all amateurs and just want to communicate. And I think last time it was okay. And I'm very confident that we will manage also for today. Again, here we have the different roles. During the meeting, I will be the moderator. We will have Doreen as technical coordinator. And then there will be Ingrid, Bianca, Lane, and Lane. So we have 2 lanes as thematic presenter during the thematic sessions. And then again, we have the outbreak sessions where we have 6 groups, which are moderated by Lane, me, Valentina, Kerstin, and Christian. So these are the roles. We will guide you through the meeting. We also have prepared a short link that was also distributed to you before. It's a little bit bureaucratic, but you know data protection is important. So later we want to make a screenshot of all the participants. And in order to be on the safe side, we would like to ask you to sign this form that we can use your picture on the screen. If you don't like it during the screenshot, you can disable your video function, or you just don't fill in the form. Then we have to put a nice smiley instead of your face. Yeah, if you haven't done it, do it now or do it a bit later, that we can have a nice recording of the seminar. Okay, so that's it, just for the introduction, very short, and I would like to start with a presentation. We will have a short presentation of Happy Aging and LiCalab. I will stop sharing my screen. And then I would like to invite Ingrid and Bianca to share their screen and start their presentation on Happy Aging and LiCalab as an introduction to our workshop.
Yeah, so I am sharing my screen. Can you see my screen already?
Yes, it looks good.
Yeah, okay. Well, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much to the consortium for inviting us to present Happy Aging and LiCalab. I am Ingrid, and I will be presenting. Somebody still has his microphone on, I think. Okay, so I will be presenting together with Bianca just to have an overview of how we are dealing with the fact of living labs in Flanders. I try to, okay. So what are the topics that we're going to talk about? We give a little bit of history about the Flemish living labs, a short introduction on what living labs are. Then we'll talk a bit about LiCalab. Happy Aging will present the way they are working. We will talk about some projects and cases, and I don't know if there will be room for questions. If not, they can come up during the session the whole morning. Now, to give a little bit of history of the Flemish living labs, in fact, starting from 2013, we discussed the idea of building living labs in Flanders with our Flemish government, because we thought there was a gap between what end users really wanted on the one hand and the access of businesses to these end users, to care institutions and so on. Now, we got some funding from the Flemish government between 2013 and 2016 to have one living lab in each province of Flanders. So we got the opportunity with 6 living labs in Flanders to have some projects, to build experience, to build panels, and so on. And with this care living lab system, we really built an ecosystem in Flanders on open innovation partnership with a central item on living lab. So all parties were involved: research, cities, social profit, big companies, and SMEs. And in fact, the whole idea of Living Lab is based on an innovation paradigm change, where we first worked in a context of closed innovation, where a lot was very linear, where it was a little bit of box thinking, where people were working solo on developing a new innovation. We have been evaluating to really open innovation, where everything works within an ecosystem, where we involve the quadruple helix, where we do experimentations, and so on. So in fact, living labs are open innovation ecosystems that are based on a systematic user co-creation approach that integrates research and innovation activities in communities, that place the citizens at the center of innovation. So with this quadruple helix model, we can co-create the future, involving government, involving industry, involving people, and academia. So very important for us, especially, is the involvement of end users in innovation process. So not to do innovation for end users, but really with end users and by end users in a circle of exploring the market and the needs, co-creating, testing, and evaluating. So I said we are doing this presentation together with Happy Aging. Happy Aging and LiCalab are 2 of the 6 living labs in Flanders. LiCalab already was founded a little bit earlier, before the funding of the Flemish government came, but were integrated in the program of the Care Living Labs. We are situated really in the north of Belgium, near the Dutch border. In fact, we started off independently, but since this year we are part of the research unit Care Innovation of Thomas More University of Applied Sciences. We are a founding member and a steering member of a health and care network, Kempen, which is our region, where we bring together all the different stakeholders. And we are an accredited member of the European Network of Living Labs and EIT Health, which is also a network of living labs, but also an accelerator organization. So LiCalab stands for Living and Care Lab. And our focus areas are care technology, which can be medtech, which can be mobile health, e-health, assistive technology, communication tools, mental health, but also collaboration models in care settings. And with collaboration models, I mean that can be collaboration between businesses and care organizations, where we can think about shared value models, but can also be collaboration between first-line care, second-line care, third-line care, welfare, and so on. During the years that we have been working, so now existing since 2011, we have built our own panels that consist of more than 1,000 elderly, but also their informal caregivers and also different patients. So in the beginning, we started off with really seniors, but in the course of the years, this has extended to patients with specific diseases as well, which doesn't mean that elderly are still the major part of the panels that we are working with. And on the other hand, we also work with nursing homes, hospitals, home care professionals, health practitioners. And we have access to this network of care organizations. And then, as said, we are also an accredited member of the European network of living labs, which means that we can also do international testings, co-creations, and so on, in collaboration with living labs outside of Belgium. What are the services? And I think it's more or less the same for Happy Aging. In the exploration phase, we do desk research, we do surveys, we do interviews with care professionals or with other experts. We do co-creation. We decide on inclusion criteria together with the company or with the organization that works with us. We take care of the recruitment of people that are involved. We take care of informed consent. We decide on scenarios and methodologies. We deliver the facilities. So in this way, we can do the co-creations. For testing, real-life testing, we also define on inclusion criteria. We do the recruitment, test protocol, informed consent. Also, we take care of medical ethical approval when that is needed. And then we involve in real-life testing. And real-life testing can also be in different environments, can be in the hospital itself, can be in the care center, or can be at home. So we have a lot of seniors in the panel of people that are still in quite good conditions and that are living at home. So we can involve them in testings of different innovations. And then we also make a start in evaluating business models through interviews with experts, sessions, one-on-one, or sessions with really target groups. So we are part of a local ecosystem, and also that I think it's more or less the same for Happy Aging, but within another region, and part of an international ecosystem with multiple sectors, multiple stakeholders, and multiple regions. And as a living lab, we have a kind of a role as a bridger in between all these different stakeholders and entities. We have, of course, in the first place, our panel, and we take care of community management. We have a close link to the research, especially also for us. We are now part of Thomas More University of Applied Sciences, which means that we have this direct access. But we can also work with other universities or other universities of applied sciences. We have a close link to public authorities, which means that we are really very close to these end users, so we can have information about their needs and so on, and we can get back with this to the public authorities. We work in the business, with the businesses within the care ecosystem, and being part of the European network of living labs also means that we can take it a little bit further beyond our own borders. Now, I mentioned the Health and Care Network Kempen, which recently also has been awarded as a reference site of the Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging. Now, the Health and Care Network in Kempen was launched in 2016, end of 2016, and brings together all the stakeholders of the region as a driver for innovation and to shape the regional landscape of healthcare and well-being. We also help companies to find funding for their innovations at regional level, but also at international level. And it's important to do the matchmaking between different actors. So members of this Health and Care Network are also from this quadruple helix. It's the province of Antwerp. It's a hospital network. It's an agency of innovation, the Flemish Agency of Innovation. There are chambers of chambers of commerce. So it's really the whole ecosystem that is represented, and both LiCalab and Thomas More are part of the steering committee. So, and then I give the word to Bianca for Happy Aging and InfoCare.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Good morning, everybody. As Ingrid already told, there are some similarities between Happy Aging and LiCalab. LiCalab is 2 years older. Our Living Lab has been existing for 7 years. But what I also mentioned, Ingrid, about the Flemish Living Labs, we started with 6 in 2013. And I think that we are with 3 active living labs, and 1 is still trying to find a modus, but 2 living labs, the one in Brussels and in Antwerp, they stopped after the funding period because they had a different context. So it was a really useful exercise to start with 6 and to learn what is working, what is not working, and how can you continue. Happy Aging is now in a transition phase. To some of the people active today, we told that Happy Aging, thank you, Ingrid. The goal of Happy Aging is to support innovation, entrepreneurship, and business development in the life sciences and healthcare. And we work towards better quality and well-being and healthcare for the aging population. So, like as LiCalab, we represent a large group of innovators. We have set up close collaboration between researchers, healthcare companies, and smaller companies. And our main focus is the aging population and their caregivers, formal and informal caregivers. So, and we do that in a similar way as LiCalab does, by testing and co-creating new care innovations by and with end users. We were an initiative of the University of Hasselt, together with the 2 local cities, the city of Genk and the city of Hasselt. Then we were integrated in a non-profit organization that was called LifeTech Limburg. And this is a slide that we have to change from September on, because the founding partners were the university. We have a lot of national partners that we work together, but the main partners today are our strategic living lab partners. And it's a network partnership that we see those partners every 2 months, and those are the 2 hospitals in the region. Those are 2 GP communities of GPs, general practitioners. The pharmacists are in our network of Living Lab, and the local authorities. So our Living Lab has the support of a local network, the strategic Living Lab partners. You can go on. Thank you. Same as for LiCalab, we have some regional partners that we work together in projects, but also with events and workshops. And we have also similar international partners as LiCalab. We are also member of ENOL. We are also recognized as European reference site on healthy and active aging. And we work together with different international partners. As of January 2020, the Living Lab has been integrated in InfoCare, and InfoCare is a member organization. It has almost 300 members up till now, and the goal is is to deliver implementation in the healthcare sector. So they do the similar things as we did at LifeTech Valley, but they have a broader network in Flanders and Brussels. So we are trying to scale up a bit and to become also known outside our region. Our panel is not as large as that of LiCalab. I think we have about 250 dedicated elderly people that we reach through different channels. My colleague Lean will tell you later on more. We have a larger community, but the panel is not so large. And we also have a broader network of professionals, but it's not so easy to reach the elderly people. So it's a continuous work of gathering new elderly people who are willing to work with researchers, companies, SMEs, and with us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Bianca. Maybe we'll just talk about a few Living Lab cases, not into detail, but just to show what the type of cases are that we are handling. What Bianca also said by ending her part was that indeed it's a big work to engage seniors, and this will also be the subject of this morning's workshop, of course. How can you engage them and how can you keep them involved? But this is something for later on for our two lanes to talk about that. Now, for some cases, for LiCalab, I said there's a lot about care technology. Just 3 examples. One is the Pathfinder. Pathfinder is a tool that gives an answer to the problem of freezing of gait with Parkinson patients or patients with a stroke. And this is something that we have been testing with Parkinson patients on the one hand, but also we've been doing co-creation sessions with patients and their informal caregivers, and also with care professionals to understand if this is the development that responds to the needs. We also did a project on a tracker for people with early dementia that are still living at home. And then on the right side, the ZinTouch is a tool for follow-up of medication for older people and people with mental disabilities. So these are just 3 types of cases on the technological side that we've been doing. We also do some projects on smart cities and Internet of Things, where we consider the cities as our living lab and where we involve more people to do testing related to smart care and aging in place. This was a project that we did in 2 cities, one in Turnhout, which is a city from our area with 440,000 inhabitants, and the city of Leuven with 100,000 inhabitants. Of course, not all of them are involved in the study either, but we involved several groups where we also did co-creations and real-life testings. We work a lot in cross-border projects. Crosscare is a project where also Happy Aging is involved. It's an Interreg project as well that gives an SME program, giving financial means, but and also living lab support to companies. They can test both in the Netherlands and in Belgium. So it's cross-border Belgium, Flanders, Netherlands, in fact. And this was a very successful program. As you can see, it was with a call. It worked with a call. We got 179 applications, and then I think in the meanwhile, it's more than 23 that have been selected. But in this way, we really could give very good support to companies both in Belgium and in Flanders by doing co-creation with the target groups and real-life testings and having access to 2 markets at the same time. Seize to Grow is also an Interreg program, which is very similar, but where we only offered living lab services, so not financial resources. And then in 4 countries, France, Netherlands, Belgium, and UK. And then we have 2 Interreg Europe programs, which are more about policies, which is Helium with Belgium, Hungary, the Netherlands, Portugal, and UK, and Axel, which is a project that only started quite recently, and that has really also the focus on accelerating SME innovation capacities with a living lab approach. So maybe Bianca, you can tell a bit about 2 more cases from Happy Aging.
Yes, I selected 3 short examples. A living lab can be interesting for companies who are active in the healthcare, but also for companies who are not active in the healthcare. And the first example is from Otium Care. They are an innovative player in the market of comfortable seating. And they had a lot of razor seats for elderly people, but they couldn't penetrate the market of the elderly care. And they asked themselves, why is that? There are obviously a lot of razor seats. So they asked Happy Aging to organize 3 co-creation sessions with elderly people, with nurses, occupational therapists, and physiotherapists to gather insights, consumer insights, and to translate that to product characteristics. So we organized 3 co-creation sessions with 36 people, and we did a lab testing. They have a very large, company where there are a lot of seatings, and they tested 20 different chair seats. And now they are developing new chair seats with the insights of the end user. So that was really valuable for that company. So a large company who was not yet active in the healthcare. We also do offer services for researchers. So we worked together with the Faculty of Architecture, and they did an Horizon 2020 investigation on the ideal stairway lighting. So that's another example. And if you go to the next example, Ingrid, we also offer our services to startups and scale-ups. And FibriCheck is I have to go here. FibriCheck is a medical smartphone application that detects heart rhythm disorders, and they are already on the market. But they noticed that the main population is 50 plus, and that they had a lot of questions of the elderly people, that they didn't understand the flow of the application. They had a lot of questions. They had to organize a call center, and they wondered, why is it so difficult for the elderly people? So together with them, we organized 3 co-creation sessions together and to understand how elderly people use these medical smartphone application and how they could make it easier for them. So that is also something that we did for FibriCheck.
Okay, so now we're at the end of our presentation. I think it's within time. So if you have some questions, maybe a little bit about the team. So we are 8 persons at LiCalab, of which myself and then Vicky, who's operational manager. We have 2 panel managers, Leen and Sasha. We have a researcher in our team, and then we have a few project managers, either specialized on European projects or on more local projects. And then maybe Bianca and Leen, you can tell a bit about your team.
Yes, the InfoCare team consists of 5 people. Leen is the community manager and panel manager of Happy Aging. I am within 4 months no more part of Happy Aging, but it will all go within InfoCare. So there is a director, there is Bart Colette, who organizes all kinds of workshops and events. He's also a director of a home care organization. There is a business developer, management assistant. So the team of InfoCare is smaller, but they have enough power.
Okay, well, that's it. Andreas, I don't know if there is room for questions or not.
Yes, we had one question from Anna, who was asking about a little bit more about the medication follow-up project. I don't know if there's a short way to answer it, maybe.
For the medication, well, we did several projects on medication, and it's an electronic way to follow up on the fact if people have taken their medication or not, and then it's registered also in an electronic system, in an app, which can be shared with formal and informal caregivers. But we did several projects of that type.
Because
But maybe
our
if
time,
Anna wants some more information, I can share after the presentation, or
I would suggest that, because our time is progressing. Thanks a lot again, Ingrid and Bianca. Very interesting presentation. I also would have a lot of questions. I'm impressed by the size of operations you've implemented for a number of years now, which requires a lot of money. First funding, and then I understand also you have a sustainable base now, and you do a lot of European projects, which requires also a lot of liquidity. And so 6, 7, 8 people is a big task. I think a very interesting example on the way you operate. Certainly a lot of questions to discuss later, but I would like to continue with the agenda. Thanks to the both. And now I would like to give the floor to Leen, who is going to give the keynote presentation on our first session on how to create with elderly people. Leen, can you please, can you stop sharing your screen, Ingrid and Bianca, that we can have the next screen?
okay.
Now,
Oh, good morning,
Leen,
everyone. I will try to start sharing mine. Let's see if it works. Does it work?
looks good. Yes.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Leen Broeks. Later on, another Leen will come on. But I would like to start with saying to you that everyone is an expert in his daily life, and everyone is creative. So it's just a matter of revealing the needs and the feelings of people. And co-creation, or an interactive workshop, can help you to get insights into what people really want and really feel. So I've provided already some background information, some links to websites and articles, because a 15-minute presentation is too short to go into detail. But please feel free to read it or to just pick your cherries, what you need. So what I would like to say, do you see my second slide? No, it's not going. Wait a minute. I see that my first screen is, let's see. Okay.
Yes, now it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are no specific co-creation methods for elderly. So every method that is suitable for co-creating for interaction with end users is also suitable for elderly. And probably I don't need to tell you that elderly are a very diverse group. You have some very active elderly with a lot of social contacts, but also elderly that are less mobile, that have a lot of health issues. So, and it's not always age related, so keep that in mind. And what you also have to take into account when you bring elderly around the table, that there are some different meeting rules. When you compare it with your professional network. So it's important to get everyone at ease and feel comfortable. And you can do that by provide some time to introduce themselves. We always have a little icebreaker, something fun, something light. Also, take enough time for fading in and fading out the session. And I mean, explain calmly what are your objectives, what are you going to do that day, how are you going to do that, when you are going to wrap up. Give them a clear structure on how the workshop in the morning or in the afternoon is taking place. So we also use an informed consent, and we try to explain on by the informed consent of what is how we are going to work that day. Don't forget also give them a warm personal welcome, to offering them coffee, because the social contact and also the social interaction and dynamics between participants is also very important to everyone feeling comfortable and at ease. So that being said, let's say, okay, let me take you into the different phases of a development process. So these are the stages. You see the exploration phase, where you get a better understanding of users, the co-creation phase, where you create together with your end users a solution that meets the real needs. And then the testing phase is the evaluation of a solution in a real-life environment. And these are the different steps where you can involve your elderly. And when you are planning a workshop, please consider in what phase you are of your development process, because that determines what method you will use. So let me explain further. When you're in the beginning of your process, you have to explore what elderly really think and what they really need. So you can do it by observations in real life. Mostly we combine it also with a thinking aloud exercise, so that you also have the reasoning behind that behavior. So on the left side you see a lady that is using her walking aid, and then we ask them, okay, what are you doing with your walking aid? Let me see how you handle this tool in your living room. And also consider to take a lot of notes. Mostly we record it as well, just with our smartphone, but that we also have the reasoning behind it. Sometimes we work with personas. It's also a technique where you visualize a profile, a certain segment of your target group, and that helps your participants to put them in the place of, for example, an 80-year-old widow, or an active elderly person who goes cycling every day, every morning. Because everyone is an expert of his daily life, but the elderly are also a diverse group, so it's sometimes it helps that you can say, okay, for you this is a barrier, but what do you think that Lisa, she's an 80-year-old widow, would think about that? So a persona is something you can visualize on a template. There are a lot of examples on Pinterest, on the internet. You give her or him a name, a bit of context, how he is living, has he children, his age, what does he do in free time, so that they have some idea of that person's life. And at the right side, you see the customer journey map, also a technique that works quite well from our experience with elderly. A customer journey map is a step-by-step plan to uncover every action. For the example you see is a workshop focused on fall detection and fall prevention. So we had people around the table that had experienced a fall, and then we asked them, okay, so what were you doing at the time when that accident happened? What did you? How did the fall occur, and what happened afterwards? So that's the first step in your customer journey map, and the second step is that, okay, you have your objective step-by-step plan. So how did you feel when you fell, and what were you afraid? were you relieved afterwards? So we put the emotions layer on, and then, but that's also a second next phase. We try to, the negative feelings, how can we turn them into a positive feeling, and what are the ideas to that experience of a fall, that it's not that traumatic anymore. So, but that leads us to the other phase of ideation. So when you have a view on what really matters for elderly, you can start generating ideas. And also for that phase, you have a lot of techniques. If you look around a bit on the internet, on Pinterest, like brainstorm techniques, you have a lot of them. Brainstorming, reverse brainwriting, scamper methods, and so on. It's a very good technique to generate a lot of ideas, but please also provide some time to converge all those ideas and to try to make some priorities in the ideas. The examples you see here on the slide are examples of card sorting, a technique we often use. So we make, for a workshop focused on a specific topic, a tailored card set. And that's very helpful to structure ideas, structure information, what is important, what is less important, help them also to provide some new ideas. On the left side, you see a workshop around technical innovation. And then we show on the cards what already exists on the market when it comes on fall prevention, fall detection. And that triggers them to generate other ideas, or combining some products, or combining some ideas. And from my experience, participants like that a lot, because when they go home, they learned new things. They learned, oh, I didn't know that exists already. So that's a win-win. So they share their ideas, that's their contribution. And for us, we give them some new insights on new stuff on the market. Okay. So when you, the following step in your process, we try, with your cards you had already some visualizing, but in the second step you can start really make some prototyping, some rapid prototyping, and making artifacts, something tangible. So you see there a three-dimensional mock-up of a medication packaging, or you can work with Lego Serious Play. In the material I provided, there's also the link to Lego Serious Play blog, where you have a lot of examples of running workshops. And then on the right side, you see a wireframe where we, on the size of a smartphone, where we try to, also you can enlarge it when it's too small for people, or a tablet size, or a size of a laptop interface. And we let them make a step-by-step interface. And sometimes it's messy, but don't worry about that. It's also the reasoning behind it. It's not about it's not something you need to use, really use, but it's just to know what do they think it's important. So when you have a project where there's already a minimal viable product that works, so you can go out testing. And I just want to say, testing is not improvising. So this is an example of a usability test plan. So my advice is to be prepared, be clear with your objectives, and it's a qualitative testing. So it's about usability, it's about satisfaction, it's also about acceptance. Do they accept that kind of application tool into their daily life? That's what you want to reveal and want to test. So I will not go further into the testing phase, because the other lane has a good example of setting up a live test. But just on the side, what we also do is a human factor study, and that's a specific structured test. It's a well-defined test protocol that that have some tasks, some interactions with the prototype. So we ask 10 and up until 16 participants to perform the tasks, to run through the test protocol. And by observing, we see where everything goes smooth, but also where there are some difficulties. And it's not at home, it's in a meeting room, so it's not real life, but we try to simulate the real life daily circumstances by giving them some little tasks as, get yourself a coffee, read an article in a newsletter, and so on. Okay. So, what I want to say with this slide is that there is no one right way to go. So the best way is really to blend methods, to mix methods, and to address different senses by let them explain, let them talk, let them do things, let them write things on a post-it. Let them draw some things, visualize things, so address different senses. So it's about what people say, what people do and make, and that combination gives a lot of insights of what they really need. So, and last but not least, don't forget the fun factor. Have fun and make it fun, and learn from your session. I would not say learn from your mistakes, because you can't make mistakes. There's no right or wrong way, but learn from your session and see, okay, what I did here with the cards, that worked quite well, so I will elaborate on that in the next session. Or when you see, okay, writing on a post-it was something they weren't familiar with, so perhaps I need to change that technique into another one. So it's about iteration, experimentation, learning from yourself, but also learning from your participants. So I think that's what I wanted to say. But now it's up to you. So with the project partners, we would like to give you a situation. And the situation is you are planning a new service for elderly people. For example, a call center for active aging, where you have some service orientation and information about care, where they help you in managing daily needs, help you in orientation of free time, and so on. And before you plan the details, you want to find out what are the elderly's needs. So what methods would you use? We would like to hear that in the breakout. What expertise do you need to get that method on the road? And if you don't have all the expertise in your team, where can you find it? And create a draft or a setup, an action plan for this example of a needs assessment. I don't know, Andreas, if we can go right away to the breakout session, or are there some questions?
Yes, first of all, thank you, Lane. I think a very inspiring presentation. There has been some discussion in the chat room.
Okay.
Looking at the question from Ati on the different age group segments. I think during the presentation you answered a little bit of it. And Bianca said it's important not to underestimate the elderly. Maybe a question from my side, like you mentioned a lot of methods that you can mix, and from the perspective of the organizer, of the moderator, like when you organized it, how important is it? Did you took some training course on how to learn and how to teach these methods? Did you do it learning by doing? Did you, or was it self-learning? I mean, it's a very complex situation that you are in. How did you, like, imagine like partners in our group who, like, for the first time want to do similar things?
Yeah.
How should they start?
So there are a lot of trainings on human-centered design and service design. Mm-hmm. That is a training that helped me a lot. The service design, so it's the exploration, co-creation, exploration, idea, and testing phase. I also had a summer school on qualitative research. Mm-hmm. I already had it in my master degree, but that was some years ago. So it was a good. Was good to have it back in front of my mind. I know Lego Serious Play also have some training sessions for facilitators. So there are some quite also. I put it in the in my documentation. So we are a member of ENOL, the European Network of Living Labs, and they also have a 8 days or 8 weeks program for beginning facilitators in living lab research. Mm-hmm. So that can help also. And also they give some workshops during the year. I followed some trainings on specific brainstorm techniques. Okay, so I try to improve my skills when I see something.
So there are offers, training offers, and I think maybe we can, if it's in the material, I've seen some of the links. Maybe it's worth making some overview about this for people who are interested to learn more about all these methods, because then it's a lot of effort, and you need to really be focused. Okay, time is progressing. I would suggest we move on if there's no really a very urgent question from the participants, and so far I don't see any. Now it's 10:10, so we have a little bit of delay. I would suggest we stick to 30 minutes, Doreen. Yeah.
Yes, that's totally okay.
So until 10:40, and then we make the summary session 5 minutes.
Yes.
I think, and then we start to our break. We are going to have here the situation that we are that was explained by Lane in the last slide. We will move to the outbreak sessions, and of course we are aware that the time is not too long, so we don't expect you to come up with a perfect description and the perfect answer and everything. It's just for us to initiate the discussion, to make people think and maybe discuss, and we are very open. Don't be afraid. Just let's talk a little bit about the situation and let's see what comes out. And then we come back at 10:40 to the plenary session and see what we've got together. And so, yes, let's move to the outbreak sessions. Doreen, please,
yes.
Beam us up. Okay, I hope you had a nice, interesting discussion during the breakout session. Let's try to make it a short summary of the most important points of the groups. We had 6 groups. Was it correct, Doreen?
Yes, we had 6 groups.
Okay. I will start sharing my screen. Okay, so we discussed the idea of this call center, which was already discussed to be implemented in Austria, in Graz, but there was a lot of discussion. In the end, it was difficult to find the money because it's very important to finance it. It costs a lot of money, so that was a big question. In the end, today, a lot of seniors, they call somebody, they ask questions, but of course they can't answer all the questions, and so that's a challenge. We were discussing then at the end, because COVID-19, there was a lot of voluntary people supporting in the neighborhood, and how to channel this support, maybe to convince them to be available in a kind of platform where all people can call. Maybe they are not able to answer all questions, but they can help with simpler activities, or they can even fulfill a gatekeeper function where they can listen to problems and then hand it on to more qualified staff. And we had no senior representative in our group, but that's why it should be important to discuss with the elderly people which service they really need and what is most important in order to focus this service. Yeah, that was very short from my side. Who wants to be next? Christian?
Yeah, maybe we can only add the things that
Yes,
wasn't said so far because of the time. So maybe Christian, do you want to add anything, or anyone else from the moderators?
Yes, I can, if it's okay, I can share my screen and show our results in a short summary. So we actually had some ideas how to understand the needs of elderly people. We might ask practitioners, or of course we might invite those elderly people, create a nice atmosphere, and do some form of brainstorming, or other ideas included focused interviews with elderly people, and especially with their families. We might apply methods like design thinking based on a real question. Ask those elderly people to develop something, to uncover uncommon aspects which they do not tell us. They had the idea of creating a customer journey map or a service blueprint, if you want to. They had the idea of using questionnaires, qualitative or quantitative, of course, depending on the target group. They had the idea to connect with other service providers who are working for the same target group, for example, local government and something like that. As to talk with elderly people, but also with relatives and with other people who take care, stakeholders, if you want to. We also thought about the internal dimension, meaning we only have a list of possible services, and we should somehow connect our possibilities, our competencies and know-how to needs that the elderly people might have. So we need a mapping to do that. Not any need is something that we might have a solution for. And we also discussed about the cost dimension, and we also came to the conclusion that that needs to be kept in mind.
Okay, Christian, thanks a lot. Kerstin, would you like to say a few words? If you want, you don't need to share, but maybe the 2 or 3 most important insights. Maybe also not repeating what has been said before. Your phone is still muted, please.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, sorry. I just marked the most important points we talked about. So concerning the methods, we talked about starting with a like open-minded method, like focus group discussions, to have a broader idea on the different needs of the elderlies, but also the caregivers and the families. We also talked about defining the actual target group, because elderly people, as we already heard, are people living at home, but also people who are active, people who are in need of care. So to have like 4 to 5 different focus groups with different kind of elderly people to get a clearer picture. And we also talked about doing like a desk research on what is already existing concerning care centers, other care facilities, to get an idea on what is already existing in the region. And yeah, then we talked about some brainstorming techniques and the expertise we already heard in your group and in Christian's group, that we have very broad field of expertise we will need, like from experts from innovation and co-creation, experts and people from local authorities, and people from social service and community nurses. For example, in some countries there's community nurses who have a very clear picture on how the care is organized and how the people are living at home. But we also talked about the financing, so local authorities who will finance the project or the call center, and also local authorities as policymakers for the health and social care sector we would like to include. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kerstin. Valentina, would you like to add on?
Yes. Sure. I would try to make it very short. We talked a lot about how we would set up this plan with the co-creation development of the active aging call center. And we said that it's very important to use the different channels, and also to have in mind that there are maybe some special things you have to take care of if you plan it in rural areas or if you plan it in city. So maybe you have to be aware of the different channels to the regional circumstances. And then that it's always very important to have a very clear goal, and that you don't get lost in using all these very different channels. And yes, I think that was the most important thing out of the breakout session.
Thanks. Okay, then we have Lane and Lane. Which of the Lane wants to be first? Lane, students? Yes. Now we can hear you.
I'm muted. I just want to add that we discussed that it's very important to start with mapping the stakeholders that we want to involve or can be involved in these call centers, or which can provide us with the information that we need about what the elderly's needs are. So the people that we were thinking about were not only the caregivers, but also the postmen and the hairdressers, just the people who are close to the elderly and to which they express their needs to. And we were thinking, as a method, we were thinking of providing them with a little questionnaires that they can put down in their waiting rooms, or that they can hand over to the elderly themselves. And an interesting question was asked at the end of our session, like how can we motivate the stakeholders themselves to reach out to the elderly? So do we need to give them some cash, or are there other incentives so that they are willing to work with us? And as Valentina mentioned before, we also had a remark of you need to make sure that there are different needs depending on the region which you're in. If it's a city or a rural area, needs can be different. So considering the context of where you will put up the call center, your context varies and your methods will vary as well. So that's in short what we discussed.
Okay, thanks a lot, Lane. And last but not least, Lane, the other Lane, what was your
Yes, let's see. I just highlighted some things. Oh, can you see my screen? So it's important to have a neutral person for facilitating the session. A SWOT analysis can be a good starting point. And don't make assumptions. Ask the elderly what they need and what they think of the ideas. Have the feedback and iterate small improvements. And if you have your developer or researcher around the table, see them as an observer and not defending their idea. They have to listen in the first place to what the elderly really need. And finally, also the revenue, what's in it for them, came up in our discussion. So there has to be an added value for them as well to participate in a session. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to the moderators. Thanks a lot to the participants. I think we've all deserved now a break. Please enjoy your coffee. And I would suggest we restart at 10 minutes past 11, then to the second part of our journey. So then take a break, take a long breath, and see you in roughly 20 minutes. Let's restart, and we directly start with the presentation, the keynote of Leen about how to motivate elderly people to join co-creation processes. She will have a presentation of 15 minutes, and then we'll come back again to the breakout session. So please, Leen, share your screen, and looking forward to your presentation.
Yes, I will have a look. Share. Can you see my screen? I'll put it in presentation mode.
Yes, it works.
Okay, thank you for
perfect.
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. So my name is Leen, and I'm a panel manager for Happy Aging. And I would like to tell you something more about senior engagement right now. First of all, I would like to start by asking the question, what motivates elderly to participate in living lab activities? So when looking at the scientific research, we see that they make a distinction between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So we see intrinsic motivations can be things like learning, being entertained, stimulating curiosity. And those are seen as actually the most important reasons why people join in our activities. But we see when we ask people to join in repeatedly, so when we have multiple sessions, that material incentives may become more important as motivators. So here I have a slide of a few examples of what intrinsic motivators are. So in this case, it might be social contact. In the Happy Aging panel, we have a lot of people who join in regularly. So they ask like, oh, is Anna joining too? Is Jeff joining too? Then I will come as well. So we see that the social contact is very important to them, but also the curiosity for new things, for new innovations, for new products, but also being recognized. So feeling like their opinion matters, that they feel appreciated. Of course, you can see in the bottom the health condition and family circumstances. This means it's quite obvious that if people have health issues, if they're ill, they won't be able to join in on our activities. The same for family circumstances. If they have a granddaughter who's ill or they have to take care of them, obviously they won't be joining our session. Then let's move on to the extrinsic motivators, which may be a free lunch, coffee and cake when we organize a workshop. Those are two things that Happy Aging always takes care of. When we have a workshop or we have an event, we make sure that we spoil them a little bit and provide them with coffee and cake. Sometimes we have a little incentive afterwards. This may be like some candy or a flower or a voucher for a bookstore, stuff like that. Some companies also offer cash payments for filling in a survey or joining in a test phase, but we at Happy Aging don't usually do this. Which may be another option is a personal benefit. So let's say that we're testing an app on mobility with these people, and it's a market fit or it's ready for market, and you can say to the end users like, okay, you've tested it along with us, so to recognize you, we offer you the app for free for a whole year. So this is a form of personal benefits. Then I would like to go on to the recruitment of the elderly and how do we recruit our elderly. So now that we know what the motivators are, we can respond to those needs when we start the recruitment process. But before I dive in deeper into that, I would like to point out this definition of recruitment. So recruitment is actually standing for user involvement and user involvements, which are all the activities to gather panel members who are willing to cooperate in living lab research, as you can see on the slides. And then before I go into the tools of recruitment, it's important to make sure that you know what the goal of your recruitment is, because there are multiple forms, multiple layers in this. So for instance, you can set up a recruitment process just to attract new members, for example, for the Happy Aging community. More concrete, this means that you might want to make sure that they subscribe to your monthly newsletter so that they get the updates from Happy Aging, and hopefully when there is a new project and we need new people, that they subscribe to this project as well. But on the other hand, we also have recruitment processes in the context of projects or in the context of services that we deliver for startups, scale-ups, or other companies. In the slide, you can see a few examples for Happy Aging. So it's important to know what the goal is of your recruitment in order to start doing it actually, and defining your tools as well. Also, depending on the co-creation method, you will use another strategy of recruitment. So now I would like to go to the tools of which Happy Aging uses. So here you can see a few examples of what we use. So depending on the goal of your recruitment, you choose the tool that's best fit for your action. So at Happy Aging, we mostly use social media and especially Facebook, because we've noticed that there are some seniors on Facebook. So we try to post some ads or announcements on our Facebook page, but also the newsletter is very important for us. So every month we send out a newsletter to our panel, to our Happy Aging panel, in which we can announce our projects and the people that we need. We put it in there. Also mail and phone calls, face-to-face contacts are very important. We mostly use it when we have a specific target group or if we have already some people in mind that we think of, oh yeah, maybe Jeff is a good fit for this project, and we call him personally. So we have noticed that when you ask people in person, they are more willing to participate, that they don't say no that often, because it's, yeah, well, they feel appreciated, and it's a bit harder to say no then. Also flyers. So what Bianca and I did was on Monday morning or Monday afternoon, there's a seniors university at the University of Hasselt. So we made some flyers for our project with a profile in it of the people that we needed. And after the class ended, we were standing there and passing all the flyers to the seniors who were coming out of the classroom. So that's an option as well. Also putting down flyers during other events, making publicity during health fairs or exhibition whatsoever, you can, that's a tool that you can use as well, or that we use as well. But also thinking outside the box, I would really recommend it. And I will give you an example of myself. So for this project called Soulmate, we had to deliver 100 surveys of like 20 pages each. And I think we were in November, and we had 15 filled in surveys using the newsletter, using social media, using mails, using flyers. And then I contacted a bus company, and they were organizing a bus trip for 100 elderly to Dinan. So it's like a 2 or 3 hour drive from the starting point. So I went along with them on the trip the whole day, and I stood in front of the bus with the microphone, explaining the project, asking them if they were willing to participate and filling in the survey. I handed them out personally, so I had copies with me, I had pens with me, I even had some chocolates with me as an incentive to thank them. And when you hand them over in person, people are more willing to participate, and they were stuck on the bus, so they didn't have anything else to do, so that was quite welcome as well. So those are some general recruitment tools that I wanted to share with you. But of course, sometimes these recruitment strategies don't work for every kind of target group that you want to reach. So if we have to reach some specific target groups like migrants or like less mobile people or highly aged people, we don't have them in our Happy Aging panel itself, so we need the help of others. And in Happy Aging, we have our strategic living lab partners, as you can see here on the slides. Those partners are the regional hospitals of Genk and Hasselt, but also the cities of Genk and Hasselt, pharmacists, the home care organization, and the, well, 2 groups of GP, general practitioners. We have a meeting every 2 months in which we explain the projects that we're handling, the questions that we're getting, and then we present it to them and ask them like, okay, we need those kinds of people, can you help us with them? And then they can search for us and facilitate this process for us. So the partners are a really important stakeholder for us to get our targets, to reach our target groups. So now I would really like to illustrate this with an example to make it more tangible. So here, yeah, that's the end of the slides. Here you see a case study, and it was a project called Memorize at Home. So of course, recruitment is just step 1, and there are many other steps in which you have to keep your seniors or end users involved and engaged. So here you can see a little timeline, starting with the agreements, of course, the service agreement, a contract that you have with the company or healthcare organization that you're doing the project with. Then you also define your profile, like what kind of participants do you want. Starting then with the recruitment, going on with the start of the project, the co-creation method that you have defined. In this case, it's the real life testing that we have done, the end of the project, and then afterwards stay in touch, very important, but I will go deeper into every step. So starting with the service agreement, but let me first introduce Memorize to you a little bit. So Memorize is actually a home trainer connected to a tablet from which you can go cycling at any location. So more concrete, this means that it's actually a tablet that is connected to a home trainer, and once the person or once you start cycling, you can have the images, of Google Street View of the route that you designed. So that's Memorize. And it was already an MVP, so a workable product that was used in the nursing homes. And now the developers wanted to test if it was something beneficial in the home environment. So what did they want to do? They wanted to test it at home with seniors at home, and they wanted to know if they wanted to pay for it and how much they wanted to pay for it. So those were our 2 goals in this project. So we decided upon the co-creation method, which was live testing. We did it with 9 elderly people, and they had the device for 3 weeks. So they had to test it for 3 weeks. The inclusion criteria were as follows: so 65 or over, likes to cycle, be mobile, be healthy, and are willing to use technology. So once we have set our profile of the participants, we can go on to the recruitment phase. So in this case, recruitment was actually quite simple. We put an announcement in the newsletter, put in a little link to a Google form where they could subscribe to it. So I think within 1 week, within 2 weeks, we had our 9 participants who were willing to join us. So I sent a little confirmation mail with the explanation of the project once again, and the details of the starting workshop. So then we came together as a group in our offices for the starting workshop. And in the starting workshop, as Leen mentioned before, there are some meeting rules. So we start with an icebreaker that the people get to know each other a little bit. We provide coffee and cake that they can enjoy. And then we started the workshop. So what did we do? We handed out all of the materials because they didn't have it themselves. So we handed them a tablet, and the people who didn't have it, we handed them a home trainer as well. Then we explained the product, we showed them some different scenarios that they could do, and then we practiced it together. And afterwards, we sent them home with the device and asked them to use it as often as they want to, and we even delivered a little diary as well, so that they could take notes every day, like, okay, today I cycled this route, today I did this, and this was going good, this was going not so good, so that they could keep track of their process. Then the next step. So they go home, they start testing the device. Then as a panel manager, it's really important to stay in contact with your end users. So I call it standby coaching. It's actually just being a point of contact, being reachable by email, by phone calls, in case they need help, in case they have questions or problems with the technology. Follow-up, you can send follow-up mails in the middle of the trajectory, like saying, hey, how are you doing? Is everything fine? Can I help you? I did some random phone calls to, I think, 4 or 5 people, asking them if they were okay. There was one person who had some problems with the tablet and some connectivity problems, so I even had to go on a house visit. And we figured out the problem together, and then we could solve it together. So it's really important to provide also a little time to offer the standby coaching, because I needed, I think in total, it was like 4 hours that I did the standby coaching. And in the next project, it's important that you know, if you have a similar project, that you can say, okay, I will need 4 to 5 hours for helping them as well. So you can put it in the contract as well. Okay, so after 3 weeks, the testing phase was done, and we came back together in this end workshop. And in this end workshop, we had a little round and we asked the participants to share their experiences, saying what was good, what wasn't good, or what was working or what wasn't working, or even if they used the device at all. We collected the diaries that they had filled in, and at the end of the workshop, we also asked the question like, okay, you have tried it now, are you willing to pay for this or not, and how much are you willing to pay for this? So that was the end of the project. So we wrapped it up, we made a report on it, and then afterwards, it's very important to stay in touch and to provide the results of the project as well, because the people find it's very important to know what happens with it when they've tested it, of course. So Happy Aging, as Happy Aging, we do this by sending monthly newsletters, putting our results on social media, or putting a little article on Facebook or on Twitter when we have done a co-creation session, just to keep them engaged. And we also organize some events that we invite them to, or that they can come to as well. So this was a little case study of Memorize at Home to show you the different steps of senior engagement, and that it doesn't stop with recruitment, but it starts with recruitment. All right. Okay, then I have prepared 2 slides of the lessons learned. So, of course, over the time we have learned some things about being in contact with seniors, and the first and most important one is that the senior as such does not exist, but that the group of seniors is actually very diverse. And it's kind of a disadvantage of the Happy Aging panel that we have little representation of migrants, of highly aged people, of the highly aged people, and etc. A second thing is that communication is really key. So it's very important when you go out there and start telling your story that it's a warm story, that it's a personal story, have them engaged in it. But also during the project, be clear what the goals are, what you expect from them to do. That's very important as well. And of course, report on the results of your projects. Then the next one, you can see time twice in here. Let's start with time and place. So this might seem like a detail, but it's very important in gathering people. So for example, in January, we had this event. We went to the theater on a Friday evening. And we had many people who said like, oh, I would like to join you, but it's in the evening at 8 o'clock and I don't like driving at night in the dark. And it's like a half-hour drive from my hometown, so it's quite far. So time and place and date do matter. So please don't put in a co-creation session at Wednesday evening, because chances are high that they have their grandchildren coming over. So that's the point of time and place. Then the next one is time intensive. Panel management is time intensive because you have the whole recruitment process, but after recruitment, you have to keep them engaged, be in contact with them, answer their questions, etc. So you really need the time and the personnel to do this and to manage them. Some other lessons that we have learned at Happy Aging regarding the projects, regarding co-creation sessions, is that it's really important to have one single point of contact. So in the past, Happy Aging had 3 contact persons, and it is confusing for the elderly themselves because they don't know who to call, or they don't have a direct line to Happy Aging. And also for your organization as well, it might be confusing. You might lose some information. Linked to the single point of contact, of course, is the help desk. So it's very important to be the help desk as a panel manager. You can help them in different ways through mail, through chats, through phone calls, social media even. Perhaps you can even organize an open house at your office, like a walk-in, saying, oh, every Monday morning my office is open. If you want, you can come in, ask your questions, or if you just want to have a coffee, let's have a coffee together. So that's one other lessons learned. The last 2 then is the information overload. So that's in regard with a project. So in case of Memorize at Home, so we have one start workshop that lasts for 2.5 hours even, and we give all of the information regarding the project as once. And it might be a bit overwhelming for them and they don't know what to do. So perhaps it's better to divide this into some smaller parts or some smaller tasks, because this might also be the reason for dropouts. As you can see in the left bottom, participants may drop out during the project because it's just too much, or they don't see the added value of the innovation, or the technology doesn't work, which we also had one case of at Memorize at Home. But also before the start of the project, so people subscribe, but then they get sick in front of it. So our experience at Happy Aging is that there's a dropout of 10%. So we always try to recruit more people than we actually need, just to be sure that we have our targets matched. So this was a very brief presentation about senior engagements. I hope I'm within the time. And then now it's up to you. So Lynn and I prepared a little exercise which you can reflect on during the breakout session. So we would like to ask you to make a short roadmap of how you would set up a panel in your region, and then the following questions. So what motivates elderly to participate? Maybe you have some other motivators. What keeps them motivated? How would you reach them, and how would you communicate with them? Which skills do you need as a panel manager, and which network, health and care organizations would you address? So those are the questions we have prepared for you. So Andreas, I think I will stop sharing my screen right now.
Yes, thanks a lot, Lane. Very interesting presentation. In the chat, there was some discussion ongoing about how the data protection rules have impacted your recruiting process.
Yeah.
Bianca mentioned that you had a database of 800 contracts, and then suddenly there were only half of it, so they had a lot of sleeping contacts. And Anna was asking, like, the influence on how to recruit and contact new contacts with the GDPR measures. So,
okay, yeah.
I don't know if you can have a short answer, because we are a little bit in delay, and I would like to start the breakout sessions.
We ask,
go ahead, Bianca. Yeah.
We ask them to fill in a form, online or offline, if we can address them with newsletters, if we can ask them to join projects, and if we can collect data. So they have to sign the document on or offline. I don't know if that's the answer for Anna, and I don't know how Lane does it. Lane Brooks, how do you do that with the GDPR lead?
Yes, we also work with an informed consent for each activity we do, but also for the general panel. So they have to give their consent to be part of the panel. And then, and what's the purpose of the panel is that for us it's an added value to have a group of people who we can reach out to when we have a project. So you don't need to start from scratch all the time. So you have a certain base where you can, a certain pool where you can ask to participate. That's an added value, of course.
Okay, good. So I think we should start our breakout session. In order to stick to the timeline, I would suggest to make it 25 minutes. That means 12 o'clock. Doreen,
Yes,
we come back.
perfect.
We come here, and so enjoy the discussion in the small groups. I hope you had a nice breakout session. We are still 34 people, so the participation rate is stable. I would suggest that each of the moderators just gives the two most important facts that were discussed during the workshop, and maybe not sharing the screen, because then this will always lead to explaining everything which was written. And if I would like to start, we first were discussing the question of whether to use electronic means of communication or traditional means of communication, because elderly people might have a problem reading emails or checking Facebook. And apparently then was interesting, like we had the feedback from Austria, that they say the 50% of the contacts will be given by personal contact, 30% by newspaper, and the rest is email, and only 1 to 2% is social media. I don't know if you have discussed this question, but that was interesting for me. And the last interesting element was also presented by Judith from Graz, which tried to adapt experience from Sweden, which is the Kulturum initiative that involve patients into the public health service. Every time they do meetings, quality management, there's a patient sitting in the room giving the feedback. and they also now try to create such a system with a database of available patients or seniors that can be easily approached for all activities of co-creation, and we will share the link for people who are interested. Okay, we continue with the remaining moderators. Christian, can you give us the two most important insights from your group?
Yes, but this is a tough one. Two most important. I don't know what is most important, but one thing we discussed a lot about is how to be in line with data protection rules to find new participants for your panel. And I think one of our findings is that it could be a good idea to use your own network to connect to those people.
Okay. Valentina?
Yeah, sure. So I think I have a little bias of my last impression is the one that's most in my mind right now. So what we discussed at the last question for the motivation for elderly people, we had an idea that maybe it's also quite a good thing to have the regular meetings, not only going to a theater, but also to have some small training events where you show the elderly some new technologies and have some small training sessions. And then we also said that it's very, very important to show the progress and to keep them updated, with progress on the projects.
Okay. Thank you, Valentina. Kerstin, what was your outcome?
Yeah, maybe I can just add some things we discussed involving the local medias like radio or newspapers to get information about the project to the target group and to recruit elderlies for the co-creation process. We also talked a lot about, in my expression, there was were a lot of ideas on how to motivate elderly people, what motivates them, like that it's important that they're having fun, but also learning some new stuff during the project work, and also that they have clear personal benefits out from the project, so to make sure that they know what to take away from the engagement process. And as for the skills of a panel manager, we talked a lot about good communication skills, but also social skills, knowledge about the target group and how to work with elderly people, but also have a positive attitude and have a attitude that motivates the people to work with you and to engage, be engaged in such processes.
Okay, thanks, Kerstin. Lynn, Brooks,
Yes.
how was your discussion?
So a lot of is already been said. Reaching out to elderly through associations of care providers, informal carers, local government published often a newspaper, so where you can have a call to action to participate. Through the Third Age University, that kind of network, and last but not least, personal contact. So the face-to-face, just really addressed to people in person.
Okay, thank you. And now, Lane, your presentation, how was it?
Our breakout session, yeah, well, very similar to the results that have been shared already. So it's also an answer to the question, what motivates elderly? So make them feel like they're valued, that they're being recognized. And at Happy Aging, we also see them as our colleagues, as our ambassadors who also make some advertisement for us. And then another remark from Peter was that we need innovation managers also within local authorities and not only those being in the social services. So we need different expertise actually to bring innovation to the markets. as a skill for the panel management to add, he or she has to be a good networker.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot. So I think the challenge of recruiting elderly for the co-creation is still existing for all of the regions. There are many different ways and important aspects to consider. So it will be a challenge again also for our project to work on this topic. Then I would like to move on to the next topic, which is, we had the difficult situation of COVID-19 and all the restrictions that especially were severe for the elderly people that were not allowed to receive visitors for a long time. And of course, also meetings for co-creation were not possible. That's why in the meantime, a lot of online activities have emerged, like we do now meet in Zoom. Also, the communication has moved to the web, and we would like to have a short presentation again by Lane, one of the lanes, and then we have another outbreak session to discuss what was your experience and maybe to understand if there's a common development or where we can learn from each other. So Lane, yours the floor, please share your screen. Thank you.
Lynn, I will share my screen, okay?
Yeah, okay. So this the third part we worked on together, Lane and myself, because your question was what with the past few months, how did your online panel activities? So and on the next slide, I just want to say our experience from Lane students and myself is that more and more elderly are very familiar with their smartphone and more familiar with apps. So they are digitally skilled. They can email. They often have a tablet and an iPad. But what we noticed is that sometimes they have a PC or laptop, but that is often outdated. So, but within our panel, we have, I think, 70% is digitally skilled. Oh. Okay. So, that being said, the past few months, a few of our activities were put on hold because we couldn't meet physically. So we did some online surveys. That's a service we already did in the past, but this was one now we focused on the past few months. So we have a high response rate on online surveys, but only if the surveys are short and simple. So it's very, and it's not only for the target group of elderly, but if you have a survey of around half an hour to fill out, so you drop out. And it's a more quantitative approach. It's a more quantitative feedback you get, or a validation of something, of an assumption or an idea that already came up in a workshop, that you can see if it's okay, and that you can scale up and have a quantitative feedback. And for us, it's also important to also combine it with an offline survey, because we have our e-seniors, and 70% of our panel can email and has a computer or another digital device. But there's still that other 30% that we do have to keep in mind. Okay.
Okay, I will take over for this slide. So with Happy Aging, we had our first digital experience about 2 weeks ago when we organized an aperitif I don't have a really good translation for it, but let's call it Happy Hour. This is an event that we organize 3 times per year where we invite our Happy Aging panel members to thank them for being a part of our panel and for being participating in our projects. So since we couldn't meet in person due to the Corona crisis, we had an online session. So as you can see in the middle picture, we had a Jitsi video call in group. So we, in the end, we had 13 participants who were joining us. It was on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. We provided them with a little drink and a little snack, as you can see in the picture. So we had it sent to their houses so that we could enjoy a drink together. But our experiences then, as it was an experiment for us as well, it was a bit difficult, a bit chaotic from all of the sides because you can't see it on the picture, but some microphones didn't work, some Wi-Fi connections weren't that stable, screens that were frozen sometimes, some background noises. So we had an hour planned, and the only thing that we could have done was asking everyone, like, how are you doing? How are you holding up in these crazy times? So there's still a lot to learn, quite some technical issues, and then they're asking you for help, but it's very difficult to assist them, to support them from a distance in these technology problems. So we did in advance write an email and explain the tool to them, but well, as we noticed, this wasn't enough. So there are definitely some things to improve. So maybe have smaller sessions with less people, explain the tool in advance, or have a tryout session one-on-one, maybe provide a manual and have some meeting rules, because now people were talking through each other, so at the same time, so it wasn't really clear. It was, well, a first experiment to be continued and to be updated, and I will leave the floor to you, Lynn.
Okay. So also in our case with LiCalab, yeah, we tried to reach them online, and our intention was to have also an experiment, an online co-creation, to ask them, how do you feel about that online co-creation? How many people would we invite? How long does it have to take? So we also used the Jitsi platform. We're very, yeah, we're okay with that, because we were first looking out for other platforms, but downloading software, creating an account, we noticed that it's a barrier. So people drop out. So it has to be a user-friendly and privacy-friendly tool. And I think a tool like Jitsi is okay. So indeed, as Leen said, we made a manual, a step-by-step with print screens, and we did a test in advance, a one-on-one. So the days before the session, I tried it out with each of them. So we had now invited 6 people, and 5 were able to join, because 1 dropped out because of a sick grandchild. And what they said was a maximum of 8 to 10 people, because what Leen previous said, too many is too many chaos. And also max 1.5 hours because of the concentration and the focus. So we made a guiding PowerPoint presentation, just like we are doing now. But the slide of the eSenior, so we tried it out with the laptop of the people in advance, but some of them have no webcam, the sound was not okay. So 3 of the 5 people who joined joined it with their smartphone. And then, of course, your PowerPoint and the text and the words on the PowerPoint slides is too small. So also take that into consideration. But it was a very nice experiment, and they enjoyed it very much. But they said, yeah, if we can meet physically, that would be much better. Okay. Don't know if there's another slide, Leen. Okay, so these are my contacts, and these are Leen's contacts. So, and I think, Leen, if there are questions afterwards, please do contact us, and we'll try to help you.
Yeah, indeed. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments directly now on this? So for the Jitsi, but at least you have to create an account, yeah? And then no?
No, it's quite simple, very simple.
I heard it a lot, but never tried it out. I just heard that, like, if it's more than 40-50 people, it gets a bit unstable, but for smaller groups, it's okay, yeah?
Yeah, and you have to use Google Chrome.
Google Chrome.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's not supported by Explorer or Mozilla Firefox, but with Google Chrome, it works quite well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding the 70%. You mentioned 70% of the elderly people are comfortable with, let's say, technology or with the internet. What age group was that? 70% of everyone older than 65, or?
Yeah, 65 plus, and sometimes it's very high-aged people. So it's not always related with age. Is my experience. We have a 90-year-old man who is really fantastic in emailing and sending pictures and so on. So it's not always a relation between age and digital skills.
And who is the person that teaches them the technology? I suppose it will be the children or the grandchildren, or is it also you? Because they, from alone, I think they are not going to buy a smartphone or a tablet, and then because it's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, perhaps I can, and then Leen, you can add. From our perspective, we are not sellers from smartphones or tablets, so we stay very neutral in that. And within our network, we have some local authorities who organize computer lessons or smartphone lessons. And we give them those contacts and try to get them in that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Activated, yes.
So, but I really are interested in your experience with online meetings with the elderly group. Do you have other platforms that work well for you? What were you? Did you one-on-one? Did you in group?
So the challenge is now that what we formulated a few questions that we wanted to do in the breakout sessions, and I suggest now we move forward. This again are the questions that we posed. What is your experience with a meeting with elderly? Which platforms do you use? What do you need to pay attention? What are the barriers and opportunities? And Doreen, I suggest we stick to the timetable and finish the breakout session at 12:50. Okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
So then we have half an hour, which I think is enough to move on to discussion. And then we come back to the plenary and listen to the results. So enjoy the outbreak sessions. Welcome back. After the discussion, we're still 32 people on board. And I hope you had a good discussion in your group. Let's talk about what we've learned. In our discussion, we first were referring to the 70% that were presented by our Belgian friends, which we think is amazing, because in our cases, like partners from Austria and Czech Republic, they said is nothing similar to this. Like, a lot of people don't have devices, a lot of people don't have know how to use them, and that's why the phone calls were actually the most important things to communicate. In the Prague case, there was the Vodafone offered a few tablets and laptops, and they can use it for the nursing home to care home to offer this possibility to communicate, but it only worked with the support of the nurses that installed all the calls and so on. So that means at the situation here, it's very difficult to start a co-creation session with people who don't have devices, don't know how to deal with it. So there's still a lot of work to be done to teach people, to make them addicted to smartphones like we are, but maybe one time it will happen. And maybe this additional possibility to have a video or to have pictures on your screen will also create a new form of technology. But we agreed it would be good to have to try it out. It would be fun, and the best, the biggest advantage is that people don't have to be transported to a place, which saves money and is always a barrier to the to all these efforts in the situation. So that was the main summary from my session. Christian, what was, please add the important points you discussed.
Okay, well, just some additional points. First of all, we had only some experience. Question number one. Most of us did not have any experience in co-creating online together with elderly people. We talked about, of course, about the platforms, and our idea was, of course, Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, or whatever. But we also found out that actually any method, I mean, co-creation methods, needed training in advance, an offline training in advance, or coaching. And this is, of course, the problem with Corona, because it was just there and there was no time to give any kind of offline training or whatever. And we also talked a lot about the barriers and found out that there might be a lot of privacy concerns. Google might be considered to be a spy or something like that. So there were large problems or barriers which should be taken into account. And the next thing is we do not have any possibilities to help physically because we are connected via the internet. And we also came to the conclusion that the tools should be as simple as possible. So I think those are some additional things we talked about from my side.
Okay, thanks, Christian. Kerstin, what was discussed in your group?
Yeah, in our group it was the same. There was not that much of experience in online co-creation, only some experience in the private family context, where we communicated with relatives, but most of the people they communicated with already had some experience or had smartphones, had also the apps installed. So the platforms that were used are the common platforms like WhatsApp or also FaceTime, but also some platforms from the business sector like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. But in our group also the telephone was a central part. So to get in contact with to reach really everyone, also people who don't have access to online meeting apps, the telephone is quite an important method, and it's quite easy to reach everyone. And we also talked about what barriers there are using the technology. It's, you have to keep in mind that the people may have hearing or visual impairment, so that the technologies are also easy to use for the elderly people, that there's nothing to download or register, and also the problem with the lack of Wi-Fi in rural areas was also kind of an issue in our group. Yeah, the opportunities are that maybe the situation around COVID-19 showed some of the elderly people that communicating online or with online meeting apps is another way of communication, and that they maybe they experience some kind of benefits in this times of the social distancing to use new technologies. And opportunities for online meetings are also reaching people who are physically restricted or not mobile anymore, people from rural areas where there's a lack of public transportation, people who don't have cars, and an opportunity we discussed about our group and the online training we are having now, that online meetings also save a lot of resources, the traveling time, the time to go to get into the smaller groups like the breakout sessions. So it's much faster to change the setting and to be in a meeting, and there's no traveling for some hours to go to the meeting. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kerstin. Valentina, would you like to add?
Sure. So I'm just going to add a new aspect we discussed. So we discussed quite a lot about that there are really so many things you have to consider when you use online tools, and that you, just be aware that also it can be a good way to combine online and not online tools. But also then if you combine it, for example, if you provide a manual and send the manual before you use an online tool, that you really take care that the manual is in an easy language, includes a lot of screenshots, or for example, that it's very simple to understand. And then we also talked that it's a good way to have a double check and to have a call before you really try it out. And then we said it's important to be aware of the little things, for example, to have enough time and to don't pressure the elderlies and to don't rush them, but having a calm voice and say, okay, I see this happens quite often, but we will get it and it's going to work. Yes, I think, and that it's very important also if you use online tools that you try to create a welcoming atmosphere and and have also ice-breaking session there. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, Valentina. Len, what did you discuss in your group?
Not many new things to add, but we were. We thought that Corona accelerated the need and the use of conference calling tools, but the stability of internet connection is rather a problem in some areas. And we had a good experience from one of our participants in the breakout rooms with Google Meet. With 5 participants, and it was not hard to coordinate. It went very well. It was very fun.
Okay, thank you. The other Lane?
Yes, so very shortly, something new from our breakout session is that not everyone has the device, so has a tablet or has a computer. So we were thinking maybe the city or local authority can offer like shared services for seniors so that they can rent a tablet or rent a computer. Or maybe there should be new products. Apparently Amazon is working on a tablet that would be designed for seniors to be able to communicate with their families or with others. And last but not least, an opportunity is training. So training to work with these devices, teach them the necessary skills, the capability to use the technology. And the barrier that we discussed as well is that seniors might experience some shame or some lack of self-confidence, which means that they would be afraid to use these platforms. So that's a great barrier as well. That was it.
Okay, thank you. So then my last question to our Belgian friends is like, you have to tell us your secret. How did you manage to reach this 70% of digital literate elderly people? Is it something like that has developed during, I don't know, the last year or two, or is it always like this? What do you think are the main driving factors or the main success factors that created the situation, which is, I think, very, I don't know. My feeling is that the other regions, they have nothing similar to your case.
Go ahead, Leen, and I will add.
Yeah, I was just thinking that at Happy Aging, almost all of our communication is already digital. So the newsletters that we send them out by email. And we have, I think, around 10 people that get them by paper. But when we see them again, we ask, like, do you have an email address already? And then put them on the list. So actually, all of our communications, our calls, our announcements are mostly online. So that's why we did have 13 participants in our get-together 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, and in our case, in the LiCalab case, it's of course a work of 7 years, but it's a good point of attention for us is to have more diversity in our panel, because what Leen already mentioned is that our panel exists of, it's a more wide and highly educated panel, so that's also the cause that they are digital skills. So, and what we really try to do is reach out and go physically to home care organizations, senior organizations, to also reach other people and a more diverse group of people.
Yeah. Okay.
The same for
sorry.
Good. So I see. I think a very challenging topic.
May I just add something, because I think we forgot that from our meeting before. What we talked about with Beatrix also from the Red Cross, and what you mentioned now, Leen, is we need some kind of peer trainings. We need to train the informal caregivers. So these are people the elderly trust in. And if they're not interested in it, if they give them the feeling that mobile devices are rocket knowledge or some very, very difficult, they will not use it. And also Beatrix from the Red Cross, she pointed out that it's very important to have some kind of peer trainers, some kind of caregivers who can show the elderly how to use this. So, and Kerstin, when you remember, we talked about train the trainers for using mobile devices, and I think this is really an important aspect. Even if maybe Corona comes back, or even if it's not coming back, it gives them more mobility.
Yeah. Anybody wants to add on this? Okay, so I see Monica, her son wants the mother back because certainly he's hungry and wants to be cooked some food. Certainly also the rest of our participants are a little bit hungry because it's 1 o'clock and we've been working now from 9 onwards. a big thanks to our partners from Belgium, our friends from Belgium, Lane, Ingrid is left, Bianca has left. Thanks for this very interesting input to the discussion during the breakout session. I think it was very interesting, and everything worked well. Thanks, Doreen, for the perfect organization of the meeting. And yeah, we will send out, we will make a documentation. The video call was also recorded. So I think there was some interesting insights that we can build on in the next phase. And then next week, Tuesday, is the next meeting on business engagement. We will send to you agenda and also material to be prepared. Enjoy reading the material. Enjoy the rest of the day. I hope the weather is improved. And take care and see you very soon.
Stop just a second. Anna wanted to say something to the partners. I'm sorry. I wrote it in the chat, but
thank you. So
you're very welcome.
First of all, thanks for today. And I'm mostly talking to the project partners who know that they have deadlines to meet, because we have the first deadline. We have the deadline for submitting the second report next Tuesday. So exactly in a week when we're going to have the training on business engagement. So I really want to make sure that you all know that you have this 1 week and try to press your national contact points so that they issue your certificates. Otherwise, the costs will not be reimbursable in this period. So please make sure that you have your certificates of expenditures ready and send it to us latest by Monday or Tuesday morning. Otherwise, I will not be able to include it in the report. Okay, thank you. That was all.
Thank you, Anna.
Some serious words to remember.
Yes.
The world, the project world, and
sorry.
Okay, good. So now you can go back to your real work and take care, enjoy, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.